Hello and welcome to Tech Observer webinar on Powering Government for a Network-Ready Future in association with VMware and Intel. First of all, thank you so much for taking out your valuable time today. We hope you, your family, and everybody around are safe and healthy. Today in this webinar, we are going to focus on roadmap to government IT modernization, key adoption challenges in the cloud environment, how to strengthen cybersecurity posture for government application. To lead the webinar, I am joined with some of the eminent experts from the industry and from the government. First, I would like to introduce Mr. Golak Kumar Simli. Mr. Simli is an award-winning government technology leader whose contribution towards National E-Governance Plan of India during its inception in the year 2006-7 was noteworthy. His efforts to digital transformation within public sectors has been immense and has helped in steering and ensuring a smooth delivery of passport services at the doorstep of the citizens in India. Currently, Mr. Simli is serving as the Chief of Technology for Passport Seva program in the Ministry of External Affairs, Government of India. Next, we will be joined by Mr. Bala Subramaniam Ganpati. Mr. Bala is Senior System Engineer at VMware India. He takes care of South India region. We are also joined by Mr. Gaurav Karagonkar, Senior System Engineer, PSU Defense and State Government, VMware India. He mainly focuses on western part of this. With this, I once again thank all of you to join the webinar. Now I would like to invite Mr. Bala Subramaniam Ganpati to take over from here, and Mr. Simli would soon join us. Mr. Bala.
Hi, good evening, everybody. I hope everyone can see my cam as well as my presentations also, right? So, so let me start. My name is Bala Subramanian. I'm a pre-sales engineer supporting South India government business with VMware. So in next 15 minutes, I will discuss with you like how VMware Cloud Foundations will support your business transformation in a short evolution, right? So where we have VMware is started, like our first journey is a virtual infrastructure, and the second journey is software defined data center, and the third one is a hybrid cloud platform. Okay, so each and every journey, like we are evolving new product, and so we started with compute virtualization, and slowly we have evolved in storage virtualization, the product called vSAN, and the network virtualization, the product called NSX. And the third generations, we have introduced a product called VMware Cloud Foundation. So we are going to talk about VMware Cloud Foundations in this session. Okay, so before entering into VMware Cloud Foundation, so let's spend few seconds about a VMware strategy and vision in 2020. Okay, so like our vision is not changed, because we keep our vision starting from 2013 and 12 onwards. Our vision is any cloud, any application on any device, and including intrinsic security. So if you see on the right hand side, so the security is inbuilt in each and every layer. Okay, and in the any cloud, any application and any device, and now the a lot of use cases are evolving in the market, like edge cloud computing, and 5G is also there, and network functional virtualization is also started growing in the public as well as private cloud. So our capability is matured, and we have expanded our capability also. Okay, so coming to that, so how we are expanded our capabilities, so now our products can be build, run, manage, connect, and protect in the entire life cycle journey of the data center. So which is predominantly it is a cohesion with the any cloud, any app, and any device. So if you see our product portfolio, so like in the build, we have recently acquired a company called Pivotal as well as Bitnami also. So now in with the build phase, like our modern applications is we can deliver modern applications in the build phase, and in the run phase, like we have vSphere 7, which is the new version, which is inbuilt Kubernetes in the kernel level. Okay, also we have recently introduced a lot of VMware certified cloud partners across the world, and even in India. So we have VMware Mighty approved cloud vendor is also there. So every versions, like we are attaching new features and new capabilities as well in the run space. Okay, and in the manage we have VMware vRealize and VMware Workspace ONE and Cloud Health as well as WebFriend. And in the connect, so we can use VMware NSX, which is software-defined networking. So as you see, like in a typical example is software-defined wide area network use case we can achieve through VeloCloud as well as a part of NSX as well. And we have embedded a layer 4 and above capabilities in AV networks. So AV networks is part of VMware, and we have advanced load balancer capabilities, like how people are using load balancer, physical load balancer in the current data centers. Eventually we are helping them to transform as a software defined load balancer. Okay, those features Gaurav will talk about in the next session. So this is the high level overview of like what product is there in each and every area. In the product, you see like app defense, which I think 3 years before we have released this feature, app defense, like how we are protecting the applications level security. It is a next generation phase. And secure state, it is available in the cloud only. And recently we have introduced we have acquired a company called Carbon Black, which provides end-to-end security, not only the application, even endpoint as well. Okay, so next generation firewall capabilities, now we are embedded into the hypervisor, as well as the architecture becomes more distributed. Okay, so even in the protect, you can say NSX. We can use NSX as a distributed firewalling up to layer 2 to layer 4. You can use NSX. So eventually you can leverage the micro segmentation use cases in the product layer. Okay, so moving forward, so these are all the four government use cases. Typically we are engaging in our day-to-day business. So if you see that there are four use cases, we are talking about transition to digital government. So most of the government state data centers nowadays, it is in virtualized. I think 90% of the workloads running on VMware. So only 10% of the workloads running as a bare metal. Okay, so and even as I can like go back to my the first slide which I am talking about VMware evolution. So we are compute virtualization is already there, and storage virtualization is already there, and even network virtualization is already there. So now people are evolving the management automations with vSphere replication as vSphere vRealize operation manager and vRealize automation. The complete life cycle become automated now. So starting from the so for example, the government department, every earlier they are using a manual operation. With all the manual operations, we are translating into automated operations by using vRealize automation and vCloud suite as well. And strengthening SDC cybersecurity. So most of the layer 2 to layer 4 firewall can be leveraged with VMware NSX, and those things that then the strengthening SDC cybersecurity. And Embrace mobile workspace is a typical use cases. Most of the government IT organization now they are started using this like use cases. So predominantly what I can say, they during this COVID-19, most of our customers, they are started using our remote solutions based on Horizon and Workspace ONE. Okay, so moving to the next slide is traditional business is moving towards digital business. So it is clearly seen in the market. Okay, so there are 6 R's you need to remember. The first one is maintain, re-platform. So how you are going to maintain your application if you want to go towards the digital business. So how you can re-platform the applications. So whether some of the applications can be run your data center, and some of the layer like database or web applications can be run in a public cloud, or you can entirely refactor your application, or you can develop your application for cloud native, or you can completely replace your on-premise applications to cloud. So these are all the 6 R's you have to take, you have to consider when you are architecting your business towards a digital. Okay, so likewise, like how we are managing the application. So there are two things you have to adhere, that is existing application and cloud native application. So how you wanted to make sure you can use these two applications into the current data centers by adhering the business SLA, because each and every SLA is completely different, because the existing applications required a lot of security and reliability. But the same way, the other cloud native application, it is completely different, because we have to introduce this application within short period of time. For example, COVID-19 applications, like most of the smart cities right now, and even including the corporation team, they are building a COVID-19 application. So those applications can be a cloud native only. Otherwise, we need to build this application as a traditional way, like you have to contact your IT help desk, creating a ticket, waiting for a security team to come, and all those things, it will take some time. But if your infrastructure is a cloud ready kind of infrastructure, you can build the cloud native applications as quickly as possible. So you can innovate a lot of applications also. So these are all the two building blocks you have to see, like when you are going with the VMware Cloud Foundation technology. So you will be having two building blocks, like consistent infrastructure and consistent operations. So whichever the cloud you can go, the same infrastructure is available, because our VMware Cloud Foundation is running in your private cloud. The same architecture is running in Amazon. The same architecture is running in uh, Azure also. Okay. And these are all the traditional barrier you can see in the data center, current data centers, which is not cloud ready. So it is become very complex, and it is more inefficient also, because there are process we have to wait for the process, and manual procedure, it takes a lot of time. And also the process and the provisioning of security, provisioning of virtual machine and networking, it takes some time, because the provisioning is, it is a simple click, but again we are waiting for all the governance and approval. It become very slow in the traditional IT data center. And also the risk is, you have to be very careful of creating all manual implementation and policy driven approach also. It will take a lot of time. And mostly you need to consider that most of the team are working in silo, because IT team, if you see that the security is a separate team, and infrastructure team is a separate team, application team is a separate team. So becoming a silo, it takes a lot of time to innovate new things. Okay. So these are all the barriers you need to see. So VMware Cloud Foundations resolve all these barriers. If you see that architecture is very simple, and the consistent um, setup you can see across the hybrid cloud, and the environment is more secure. We are bringing intrinsic security and intelligent analysis dashboard also we can give you. So wherever your application runs, you can have a single dashboard to watch all the risk and compliance. Okay. And also you can make sure that you are giving an entry to a developer, so that he can request a container VM or container, as well as the namespace, as quickly as possible, because the complete automations will make sure that he will get the resources at the earliest. Okay. So these are all the benefits. And starting from the VMware Cloud Foundation, so it consists of so many components, and also you will get software defined compute, software defined storage, software defined networking, and software defined automation and operations. And the day zero as well as day one operations can be very easy by using SDDC Manager. SDDC Manager is our lifecycle management product. Okay. So you can stand up private cloud within 3 to 4 hours. Okay. The same architecture, as I said earlier, you can have the same architecture in across all the clouds, including your private cloud and edge also. Okay. So you can leverage a lot of use cases, like you can get infrastructure as a service, container as a service, platform as a service, and desktop as a service. You can achieve all those things through VMware Cloud Foundations. Not only that, you can run your multiple workloads such as a virtual desktop. You can deploy your mission critical applications like SQL, Oracle. So all these applications you can run in VMware Cloud Foundation, because completely certified, because each and every version is coming up. So we are closely working with the application team. So we are also creating a architecture, so that architecture you can leverage. So that is available as a VMware validated architecture. So you can leverage those things, and you can build your mission critical application. So not only that, the containers applications, like Kubernetes containers you can run there, as well as the machine learning. So we have a product called Bitfusion. Okay, using Bitfusion you can run all your machine learning application, because what Bitfusion does is that it will virtualize the GPU. Okay, so you don't need dedicated physical GPU servers, because when you are virtualizing a GPU, so you can by leveraging the networking. So because right now the market, you will be having latest product like Mellanox network card is there, so you leverage those things, and you can virtualize the GPU as well. Apart from that, you can deploy data analytics applications like Hadoop kind of application, and not even IoT also you can run on VMware Cloud Foundation. Okay. So the next thing is, this is our latest VMware Cloud Foundation version 4, with including Tanzu. Tanzu is a product portfolio name which consists of Kubernetes and orchestration solution. Okay, so if you see that VMware Cloud Foundation, so we have already discussed the IT operator. They can use their existing vCenter console, which how they are managing their existing virtual machine management. So they can continuously use that, and the developer, they need a Kubernetes API kind of thing console they need. So we can also provide that by using VMware Cloud Foundation services. So that services can support native container, native Kubernetes solutions also. Okay, including intrinsic security and lifecycle automation. You will get the complete stack. So complete stack from VMware Cloud Foundation. Okay. So the next thing is the intrinsic security, which I talked about. So you can there are two use case here. One is traditional application as well as the container. So both the use cases, starting from the compute, you will get the VM level encryption, encrypted vMotion, and the multi-factor authentication. Also, like in the network area, you will get micro segmentation, like layer 2 to layer 4. It's a distributed firewall architecture. From one VM to another VM, you can completely block all the access. Only the required services you can enable, and also the secure end user access also you can achieve. And the storage, with respect to storage, you will get the data at rest encryption feature. Our VMware storage software as a uh, services like VMware vSAN provides a data at rest encryption. So not only that, we can provide a cluster level key management, trusted key authority. So all those things you can achieve from the intrinsic security. So as I said, intrinsic security is it is not bolted, it is built in each and every layer, especially in the hypervisor level. Okay, so as you said that you can move your workload from your data center to your cloud, to your edge devices, and to your any of the cloud like Amazon, Azure. The same virtual machines can be migrated to any other locations as well, without changing any of the architecture. So that is the beauty of it, because the same architecture is available in each and every cloud. Okay, so that we need to consider that. And with the help of VMware Cloud Foundation, so you can make or you can convert your architecture as a internal service provider. So you can provide like infrastructure as a service, software as a service, platform as a service, container as a service. Those things you can provide by using VMware Cloud Foundations. So not only that, the same architecture you can extend your to the public cloud, or you can consider VMware Cloud provider, like we have Mighty approved. A lot of cloud provider is there, as well as we have a cloud solution called VMware Cloud on AWS. So we can you can extend your infrastructure. For example, so right now everybody is stuck at home, like we need resources. So what we can do in this kind of scenario, because it is very difficult to build a new infrastructure, because you need to deliver the hardware, like procure the software, so you have to put the tender all in place. So those things we can completely avoid. You can consider VMware Cloud on AWS, because the same architecture is available in the cloud as well. You don't need to refactor your application or re-architecture your application. You can extend or you can burst your capability to VMware Cloud on AWS. That is a one good thing. You can consider that also. So not only VMware Cloud on AWS, so you can consider our VCPP partner. So in Mighty, if you go to Mighty approved or empaneled a vendor, so you can see that there are a lot of partners like NetMagic. So those NetMagic and Sifi, these are all the partners. They can provide like infrastructure as a service by using VMware Cloud Foundation technology. Okay, so these are all the benefits customers they have accomplished by using VMware Cloud Foundation. So the deployment cycle can be very faster, and they can use the same repeated architecture in all the clouds, and the application can be provisions within 2 to 3 hours. The entire stack can be built 2 to 3 hours, and then the applications can be launched to the business within 30 to 60 minutes. And also you will get the lower TCO. You can reduce a lot of IT footprint because you don't need multiple data center, but these are all the advantages you will be getting it from VMware Cloud Foundation. So that's it from my side. So I will respond to your questions through chat.
Thank you, Mr. Ganpati, for your valuable presentation. It was such a brief one, though. Now I would like to invite Mr. Golak Kumar Simle. Sir, if you could start with your keynote delivery.
Yeah, so very good afternoon, and thanks for joining all the participants. And I also must thank Tech Observer team as well as VMware team for joining this webinar. Today, actually, we are focusing on 2, 3 things. How do we prepare within the public sector, within the government sector, saying that can we make a network-ready future for ourselves? Second thing, we also must understand saying that within the public sector, what should be our migration path, from the legacy till the automation level and now up to the exploitation level. How do you plan your migration path? And the third very important thing is in case of exigency or in case of pandemic outbreak like the one which we are witnessing for, how do you plan and strategize yourself? Now, let me start with saying that government, we say that let strategize for a digital government. Now, what does that mean to us? Especially when we were working as part of the National E-Governance NEGP team, or even today, every ministry or every government department, the way they are planning and strategizing their digital ready government, I'll say. And to me, a digital ready government is nothing but if it can respond to a business call or citizen call in a real time basis, accurate, transparent, and in a secure manner. Now, these 3, 4 words seems very easy, but when you start planning within the government department, or when you start partnering with any of these industry partners, whether it is an implementation partner or maybe a OEM partners like VMware and all, our migration plan has to be very kind of a deep down, and it should be futuristic, so that like today, if you see again in my understanding, there are 3 factors which are dictating the way you should move forward. And what are these 3 factors? And I tell them 3 Ds. First is the demand, second is the data, and third is diversity. Now these 3 factors are driving us in terms of the way you plan your future ready technology, the way you plan your future ready business, the way you plan your future ready government and citizen interface. And once you know deep all these 3D factors, then probably the path becomes easy. The migration path becomes easy for you. For an example, let's say our colleague from VMware were saying that we started from a silos environment, then we move into a integrated environment. And today, I personally believe we are into a collaborative environment. Now, when I say so, when we are saying that we are into a collaborative environment, what does it mean? That means that is that your processes, is that your applications, Is that your the technology and platform you are deploying within your organizations is ready to collaborate with different government agencies, or I say different government departments? Is that your technology or the platform or the application you are deploying is kind of agile enough to interact with or to share with multiple government departments? Now that is very important to understand, right? And if you are not doing that, then it's very difficult to work in kind of a exigency like what we are witnessing today. The second factor, it comes to my mind saying that we have moved from a digitization stage to a consolidation stage, and now we are into a automation stage. Now, whatever our industry colleague are saying, or our industry colleagues are speaking about the technology, the automation part, the automation part becomes only possible provided the legacy, the consolidation, the platform you have created is ready to kind of adapt that kind of automation which you are aiming for. And the other thing is, again, if you look into the citizen side of it, we have moved forward from I'll say which we call a connected government to a inclusive government, to now we are moving towards a empowered government, right? Now, while we are looking as a government citizen interface or as a government business interface in this manner, if you see the technology side of it, or the platform side of it, or the application side of it, it comes to my mind saying that again there are 3-4 things which has to be very you have to be very careful, and you have to be very kind of elaborative in a way while defining such architecture, such roadmap, such application deployment, such application development. That you have to be very mean details you must have, and you must understand those uh, uh, kind of a migration plan you are moving into. For an example, let's say today I am moving from a traditional data centers to a cloud ready data centers to a virtual clouds, right? Now, while you are moving from a traditional data center to a cloud ready data centers, what is your migration path available with you? One is your legacy platform, second is your legacy applications, and third is definitely the way you move into the cloud ready infrastructure. But do your legacy application, legacy platform really helps into moving into the cloud ready infrastructure? Do you really understand your business processes well? Do you really understand your data points well, so that while moving into the cloud ready infrastructure, or let's say virtual cloud infrastructure like our VMware colleague were saying, is that you are in control of your entire processes? Is that you are in control of your entire data points? Is that uh, we really understand about that I call data visibility? Do I really understands about my data? Do I really able to segregate between my sovereign and non-sovereign data? Do I really able to segregate between my kind of a confidential data, fiduciary data, public data? So unless you have this kind of a expertise within, it's very difficult and to move towards a cloud ready infrastructure, and even to a virtual cloud infrastructure. And while you are aiming for such kind of a cloud ready infrastructure today, I can very well say that the compute, the network virtualization layer, the compute virtualization layer, it has enough things to offer you, and especially the hypervisor layer. Today, we are not even talking about, let's say, a host-based kind of a VMs. You can have multiple VMs defined through your hypervisor layer, and you can have that kind of a ROI, or kind of a efficiency and optimum use of your own resources. The second thing is, while you are preparing for a network ready future, or let's say digital future within the public sector or the government sector, we also have to see that we have moved ahead from our, now if you see the technology stack now at the automation layers, we are talking about AI, we are talking about big data, we are talking about analytics. No, and these things are again, no, you can only adapt these kind of a futuristic technology or the emerging technology, provided you know your legacy well, provided you have a mature kind of a learning, you have a learning curve. It's not easy to directly lead into a cloud, or directly lead into a lead into a kind of a cloud ready infrastructure or virtual cloud infrastructure, or in terms of adapting some new technology, whether it is AI or big data or analytics. What we have learned is, in ministry, or let's say within Passport Seva, is I took at least let's say almost 5 to 6 years to smoothen myself, to kind of get everything within our control, in terms of process, in terms of data, in terms of information, to define security end to end and 360-degree 24/7, because which is very important in today's parlance, because the kind of cyber threats, or the kind of advanced threats we are witnessing at every layer, not only the cyber layer, but within your own internal network, and within your own internal interfaces. So the idea is, while you are planning for a network ready future within the public sector or within the government sector, uh, you have to ensure 3 4 things, to sum up, in my view. One is, how do you start, how do you start, when I say, what is that the outcome you are looking for, what is that the outcome you are looking for yourself, within your own organization, for your own business, is that the stakeholders are taken care of while you are defining such kind of a outcomes or services, or any benefits or schemes, is that the stakeholders are taken care of, is that the access authorizations, route to the access holders has been taken care of, is that the data being collected, data being stored at rest, is that the data being governed and shared, do you really understand who is the principal owner of the data, who is the custodian of the data, who is, or how you are sharing such data, whether the data being collected and governed and shared is for the purpose for which you have collected. Otherwise, you are again landing into a legal and regulatory compliance issues. So that is one of the most very specific and difficult area to understand before even you are planning and strategizing this kind of a mammoth technology kind of a platform or applications. The second area is also very important to understand is, whatever you start, for an example, Passport Seva, now we are into 8 and 9 years, the sustainability becomes always a question. And that sustainable to that business model to become sustainable, you have to innovate your business model. You have to see that the business model is completely aligned into SLA based metrics. You have to also see that the business model is long term, and it's sustainable and dynamic for all time to come. So this is the second very important thing, which we have always seen, that projects within the ministry or the department, it starts with a big bang approach, but over a period, after 2 to 3 years, the project by itself starts falling down. And why is that? Because your business model is not perfect, your revenue model is not perfect, your the technology and other thing probably which you have deployed, the way you should have thought of about the technology probably today, which again I say that we have much more move ahead from technology procurement business to technology leverage business, and now into technology exploitation and innovative business. So government, we must see that how do we leverage technology. We must not focus on procuring the technology. We must focus on leveraging the technology and innovating and exploiting the technology. This is the third thing which we must see. And the fourth and the last thing which I talk about now, the data and the process, and on top of it, the business rules defined around it. So unless you have your entire data governance model into place, unless we understand our data well, unless we understand our sovereign and non-sovereign functions, unless we understand our data classifications well, what is my fiduciary data, what is my confidential data, what is my public data, it's very difficult, let me tell you, even to move towards any such futuristic technology or any such futuristic platform which our industry partners are offering us. And if you have defined those things very well and very cautiously and with a planning and with a strategy, then it's easy to move towards such futuristic technology and making yourself ready for a futuristic digital government. The last
Thank
thing I must add before ending, saying that while you are doing so, uh, again, the experience what we have gathered tells us saying that no, we always harp on saying that to a implementing partner or to a consulting agency as such. But what I have realized or what I have experienced over the time is that no, within the public sector, even if such beautiful industry partners, such trusted industry partners will be there with us, but we must have our own team within who should be thoroughly understanding our business processes, who should be thoroughly guiding these implementing partners or the consulting agencies or the OEMs, because it is you who should understand, it is you who should know your business processes, it is you who should guide them through your regulation and compliances. It is you who should kind of guide them to classify your data. What is my sovereign data? What is my non-sovereign data? What is my sovereign function? What is my non-sovereign functions? And that then only probably this kind of a partnership will rest and long last. And also it will be kind of a for all time to come sustainable, visible, and kind of a productive, and your outcome will be good for not only for the businesses and for the citizens also as well. Thank you. I think these are the things I wanted to share on my keynote.
Right.
So thank you.
Right. Thank you, Mr. Singhli, for sharing your valuable insights. You rightly emphasized on the importance of 3Ds, the demand, data, and diversity to make us future ready. Now I would request Mr. Gaurav to share his presentation. Over to you, Mr. Gaurav.
Uh, okay. So in the interest of time, I'll just start my presentation. I hope you can see my screen as well. So when we talk about all companies, if we look at, usually no matter any company who is manufacturing planes, or maybe they're into manufacturing cars, or who is dealing with some financial transactions, if you look at, in some way or the other, these companies are actually software companies. And this topic is, ideally I would say, it is a debatable topic. But if you look at the more the dependency, I mean, say for example, if we take an example of Toyota, who's actually, we know it that we are into manufacturing cars, but still they do have a dependency on some or the other software. Okay, and without that they actually cannot maybe diagnose what the issue could be with a car, or there could be some issue where they are actually relying on a particular software. Now let's understand how VMware as an organization helping customers, not only in government but any segment. If you look at, how are they helping them to make these applications, or to make our customers software, make it more agile, okay, so that these applications can be accessed no matter from the cloud, from their on-prem data center, from the branches, anywhere in the world. How can these be accessed, and most importantly, how can we make them more secure? So that's something which we will see in the next slides. So NSX is the product which is promising on the network and security virtualization. So everyone knows NSX, which has been there from quite a long time. So we started our journey when it comes to NSX portfolio. We started our journey where NSX was introduced as a network virtualization platform only for vSphere environments. Now that capability, the whole capability has been built up into this solution, and there are a lot of functionalities which has been added. So as of today, if we look at this product, NSX has been designed to work not only for vSphere, but it has been designed to work right from for multiple hypervisors. So no matter whichever hypervisor you go for in the market, you can deploy NSX. Secondly, when we designed this solution initial to work on the cloud or SDDC platform, but if you look at this, the solution can easily be scaled, making sure that the policies, the security policies can be consistent from your on-prem data center to any public clouds which you go for. So say for example, now we do see customers, our customers mainly who have some of their workloads in their private data center, and some workloads they wish to migrate to the public clouds. No matter, it could be AWS, it could be Azure, and it could be Google Cloud. Now the question comes is, I know that my private data center is very much secure because I have defined the policies in my data center. However, when I'm moving my workloads on the public cloud, how would I be assured that I can implement the security policies which I have in my DC? How can I implement the security policies on the cloud? And that is what NSX makes it possible, because NSX within the solution, we are ensuring that with the NSX manager through which you are managing your on-prem DC, with the same NSX manager, I can define the policies and I can make sure that these policies remain consistent no matter my workloads remain on the cloud, or no matter my workloads remain on the data center. Or if there could be any customer who would be using containers or maybe microservices kind of applications, I can ensure that I can define policies with NSX as well. So this was about it. We will see about it in more detail in the next few slides. So there are few within the network and security portfolio, there are few major components which we have addressed, some of the use cases which we have addressed. So one function which I would definitely like to talk about is the service defined firewall. Now, the beauty of service defined firewall is it basically unifies your network and security capabilities right from layer 2 to layer 7 functions. Okay, now the way we are doing it is, the way it has been done is, we have combined the intelligence of both NSX and the app defense as a solution. Now the way we are doing it is, app defense basically is a component which works right on the hypervisor layer. So what we do is, rather than monitoring and applying a filtering policy, so the way we do filtering as of today is, we have a firewall and we define rules. Maybe we define n number of rules, what to block and what to allow, and that we usually do it on the perimeter firewall for unknown destinations. So what we have thought of is, since the solution works completely at the hypervisor, why not let's secure the known traffic. So what we do is, the app defense has the intelligence to first understand how the complete application is working. So it gets an understanding of the known good traffic, and basis that gives us a recommendation. Okay, this is the known good traffic and this is the way the policies has to be applied. So there could be some policy which could be a web traffic communicating to your app traffic. So it would give you a recommendation saying that this is the policy which has to be applied, and it can be micro segmented by pushing it to the NSX on the distributed firewall. Second is the multi-cloud networking. Now, like as I mentioned, we have been seeing this trend where customers are moving, where customers do have their workloads which are secure on the on-prem data center. However, they are now switching some of the workloads to the cloud. Now the concern comes is, how would we make sure that all the VMs or all the workloads which I have on the cloud, how can I make sure that it is secure? Now the question is, NSX definitely makes it possible. With NSX Cloud, I can ensure that not only the workloads which are on VMC, probably it could be a VMC workloads on AWS or Azure, but maybe there could be certain workloads which could be on native cloud, or like native AWS services, or it could be native Azure services. So we can ensure that all the instances can also be secure, ensuring that the policy remains consistent from the same NSX manager which you are managing it. Network automation. So everyone, I'm supposing most of the customers we see that they use vRealize automation as, and everyone knows it is basically an automation platform which we have been using for doing a lot of automation for the compute, for the storage segment. Similarly, we are ensuring that the advanced networking functions like routing, like distributed firewalling, NAT, and other network functions can also be automated, and there can be a blueprint which can be created so that whenever an end user wants to request a particular VM, not only the compute and the storage functionalities but also the network and security functionalities can be attached to the VM, and then the VM gets delivered to the end user, so you don't have to do any kind of a manual configurations on the network front. Most important topic, and that is about containers. So we see a lot of customers who are actually migrating their legacy applications, their monolithic applications to a microservices architecture. Now, while they are doing this, we see lot of requests coming in where customers are planning to use containers. Now, while you're using containers, definitely everyone knows Kubernetes, which is basically a COE, which is a container orchestrated platform. Now the challenge here is when you start using Kubernetes, and if at all you want to attach some of the services, it could be layer 2 switching, it could be layer 3 routing, or if at all you want to beyond layer 4 routing, you want to attach something maybe service mesh kind of a functionalities. How do you do that? Now, if you go with Kubernetes as a native platform, what happens is you have to do this integration with a lot of products. So on the right side, say for example, if I want to enable layer 2 switching functionality, I have to do an integration with Flannel. For layer 3 and layer 4, I have to do this integration with Calico. And say for example, if I have to do service mesh, I have to do a deployment or integration with something called Istio. Now NSX makes this very much possible and very much simple for our customers, because we can offer all these functionalities right from layer 2 to layer 7 using a single stack. So the benefit which customer gets here is he doesn't have to integrate these with different products, because with single NSXT, I can build up the complete stack right from layer 2 to layer 7. Apart from that, I can also give you end-to-end visibility. So a customer knows that what is happening between the VMs, this container, or say for example, this container is communicating which application and how much amount of traffic is getting consumed, how much of resources are getting consumed. So he has a visibility of the entire stack with NSX. That's how it makes it simple. So that's the message. With NSX, a single stack, you can do a switching, routing. You also have a distributed IDS and IPS within the hypervisor itself, which is definitely a new function which we have added in our portfolio. It also has an advanced load balancing. So I have few slides which I'll be speaking on that. You definitely can do a service mesh. So you have microservices architecture, you have different services. Now, how would I make these services available or communicate with each other? That is something you do it with service mesh, and definitely SD-WAN, which most of you know, and we'll talk about it in the next slide. Now, while we have spoke about software defined networking and how it makes your life easier, load balancer is again a key blocker. I mean, I would say it as a hardware or a legacy load balancer, which is again a key blocker when you start your journey to a digital transformation. And the reasons are basically it is not scalable, because you have a hardware load balancer, I want to make it multi-tenant, or I want to offer it as a service. I cannot really do that. I cannot make it agile because it is a hardware, and it is definitely not a flexible, due to which I cannot really offer this in maybe a cloud computing or a cloud kind of a scenarios where the requirements are really agile to scale in or scale out. Now, how do we address this point? Now, definitely yes. As of today, if you look at, there are two types of load balancers. There could be some enterprise grade load balancers who can offer me all the features which I'm looking at. However, if I look for flexibility or agility or scalability, that is something which I'm lacking, which I see in the load balancer, in the enterprise grade load balancer. On the right side, when I look at the cloud load balancer, definitely yes, they give me scalability, they give me a lot of automation functionalities. However, I still miss on the enterprise grade features, which I get it usually in an enterprise load balancer. Now, how I can make this, how can I get the best of both of these features? And that is something which we make it possible with our recent with our acquisition with Avi Networks. So Avi Networks is nothing but the advanced NSX load balancer, wherein you definitely can help or deploy this load balancer, which can definitely work on as an on-prem load balancer, as well as definitely it can scale or scale to any native or any public cloud as well. So the functionalities are not just restricted to load balancer, but definitely as you can do an app analytics, you can do a GSLB. It also supports web application firewall, and definitely you can do a container ingress services also with a single platform. And definitely the key messages, the same policies can be stretched from the private or from your private data center to any public cloud. It doesn't matter wherever you host your applications. So this is an architecture about how basically I don't want to spend much of the time, but what you have here is you have the central controller, and there are agents which are basically deployed on the host which you have. The agent same can be applied and extended to the cloud components as well, and that is how we make sure that the policies are consistent. Now, while we have spoken about software-defined networking within the data center, within the cloud, and also how load balancing, the advanced load balancer functionalities can be offered with NSX, let's also speak about what challenges do we have as of today when it comes to our WAN network or when it comes to our branch offices. So we usually see that in the legacy branch office, you usually have a branch and the operations are really complex. I'll give you an example. When I want to configure or when I want to commission and set up a new branch, it usually takes a lot of time when I compare this approach with an SDN, with a software-defined SD-WAN approach. So what usually happens is the L1 guy goes to a branch, he sets up a router, he does the basic configuration, make sure that the reachability is there, and then the NOC guy tries to access and make sure that all the L3 configurations are there and everything is intact. Ideally, this, I would say, if you compare this approach with SD-WAN, this is still a very slow approach. Okay. Again, bandwidth scaling, if I have to scale to a bandwidth, it is also quite expensive. Application performance definitely is a poor performance which we see. So say, for example, if I want to migrate some of my applications to maybe a backup link wherein I have a good performance or a good latency on the backup link, I still have a problem. And definitely security threat is also a problem, because I definitely cannot make my internet available in any of the branches, because usually the internet is only allowed from the data centers. That is what we see taking into from a security perspective. So how can the SD-WAN help you? So we have VeloCloud SD-WAN as a solution, where you have the branch edges, okay, which is nothing but a branch CP which you deploy it in the branch offices. You have SD-WAN orchestrator. Now this is the single point of contact or single console where you do the complete configurations of the edge appliances. So first is it completely rules out your approach where you do, or where you go to a branch, you log into a console and you log in and do the configuration, because everything is automated now. Everything, all the policies, deployment, everything happens from the SD-WAN orchestrator, and this is completely automated using a zero touch provisioning. So you don't really need a skills, I mean the technical skills as well, if I have to set up a branch router. And then you have a cloud gateways where, say for example, there could be scenarios where customers want to access Office 365 or maybe some SaaS based applications. So we can ensure that if you have an internet at the branch as well, I can ensure that all the security functionalities can be leveraged or can be extended to my branch CP as well. So the boxes are so intelligent. Now, some of the use cases where customer can think about SD-WAN is branch network modernization. So there could be some kind of an infrastructure. So maybe your routers might be due for refresh and could be due for refresh. So that could be a very good use case where customer can think about SD-WAN. WAN transport modernization. So there could be scenarios that I have few locations where only BSNL or maybe a particular provider is feasible. But what would I do if that particular link is down? How would I make sure that my users are reachable? Okay. So that's how SD-WAN would help you. So the way it will help you is you can use any kind of a connectivity. So no matter it is broadband, it is MPLS, it is lease line, you can use your 4G connection. So wherever you have feasibility issues, make sure whichever is feasible connection, you go for it, and we will ensure that the security is well taken into consideration. Same goes for app performance, and definitely the WAN operations are definitely very, very simplified, because you don't have to struggle by logging into every single branch, because every configuration is done by the single central orchestrator which you have, and is completely automated. So with this, I end my presentation, and I have mentioned my email address as well. So maybe after the session, if you want to get in touch with me, you can definitely drop me a message and I can help you address them. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Gaurav. for sharing your presentation. We would now be opening the floor, the webinar for questions. We will quickly take 3 questions from each of the panelists, seeing the paucity of time. We have a question for Golak sir. Sir, are you there?
Yeah.
Yeah, so could you share, this is from Mr. Kumar, could you share some of the best practices and security mechanism for work from home devices and public clouds?
Yeah, no, in fact, today also we are working from, most of my employees are working from home, to say. And while you are planning for a strategy from WFS kind of an environment, there are 2-3 things which you have to make sure, saying that first thing is, the access should be seamless. The access to your data center, the access to your corporate network should be seamless. The second very important is, while you are accessing your corporate network or the corporate data center, you see that the authorization and the transportation, I mean, at the transport layer and communication layer, and also the access and authorization, how have you defined, whether your architecture or the technology suite which you have deployed otherwise in a traditional environment within the intranet, does it allow you to do same kind of without compromising with kind of a security, let's say must validate kind of a principle? Can you do that? And to achieve such kind of a architectural no kind of a success, again, like we all are speaking here, saying that for that to happen, you need to ensure that the traditional data center, whatever security otherwise you should have defined, is that the cloud way moving, while you are moving into the cloud, is that the same security principle you are able to carry forward. Yeah, so
Right.
that is very important. And third
Okay.
thing is definitely it will be a remote access, so the efficiency and no kind of a performance you have to ensure.
Okay. The next question is for Mr. Bala from Mr. Ravi Kumar. Mr. Kumar is asking, will your solution be compatible with 5G networking and edge computing?
Yes, absolutely. So we are so we can use 5G network, WTE also, and even broadband. So all the networking technologies you can use for our SD-WAN solutions. So you can get the high throughput also.
Okay.
You can
Okay.
combine all the links and you will get the high throughput.
Yeah.
And it is much more secure and reliable also.
Okay. We'll take one more question. This is from Mr. Sandeep Dorani. It's for Mr. Gaurav. Sir, could you tell, like, does NSX provides the firewall setup also?
Yes,
No,
definitely,
I'm
yes.
correct. This is for Gaurav. Okay, yeah, it's
Yeah,
there,
this
but
is-
So the way NSX works is it basically gives you 2 layers of firewall. You can achieve the firewall first at the hypervisor layer. So moment your VM initiates the traffic, the filtering happens right at the VNIC level, which is within the hypervisor. Then we also have another component where the traffic moves from the virtual to the physical infrastructure, which is T0 service router, which we call as. That is the second layer also, which you can do a filtering, and this is completely stateful filtering, which is offered with NSX.
no, I think Gaurav is also said that NSX also helps us even up to the load balancer level. That's right, Gaurav?
Yeah, that's correct.
I think that was fair and well. And thank you so much, all our speakers and the audience, for being so patient. And thank you everyone for being with us. With this, we come to the conclusion of Powering Government for a Network Ready Future webinar. We look forward to welcome you all in our next webinar. Please do share your feedback and topics that we could cover in future. Thank you so much. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.